Garcia.
Hey everyone, I'm Satya. Work as a consultant to GatherTown. We make GatherTown like crypto, metaverse spaces. We've been working with DYDX, Solana, Polygon, Arweave. Yeah, about 10 million people use GatherTown, so pretty exciting to be working in this space.
Hey guys, Adrian Shaw Driscoll, co-founder of Collimation. We translate thoughts into visuals, really. So we're on more of the creative and creator side of this whole space, which has a huge umbrella, which, you know, all these other names, but yeah, I'm just a nerd that creates stuff.
Hi everyone, I'm Agnes Garabosca. I'm a comic book creator who is now in Web3. I launched my own project, Digidurables, which takes my 17 years of experience, which we create comics together, tell stories. I just love telling stories, so I like making comics, and this is what I do.
Fantastic. My name's Ed Mills. I'm a co-founder of Nifty, which I have my Nifty shirt on. We like to say we're the Yelp of NFTs. We like to review NFTs and NFT projects similar to what you do in Amazon now when you're looking for the right room to buy. You want to have a lot of good reviews behind it. So happy to be here today and moderate this panel. I'm going to start off with just thinking about, we're going to talk about transitioning Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. So what we've seen, big brands are very hesitant to move to Web 3.0. They're very reluctant because they don't really understand Web 3.0. So my first question is, what can you do for those out here that are in Web 2.0 to take those first steps to transition into Web 3.0 and not be so afraid of this space that's the new frontier as we move forward? Satya, you'll start.
Yeah, great question. So some friends are building a company called Shield, and really interesting. I think a lot of people are afraid because these like contracts can potentially steal your money, right? If you like log in, connect your MetaMask or whatever, it's kind of scary. So they're using machine learning to read the smart contracts that are on the websites and making sure that there are like no bad functions or calls that steal your money. So I think we're going to see a lot of that, giving the end user more comfort in using these apps.
Well said.
I'll be honest with you guys, Web 3.0 will never be a thing. Web 2.0 will never be a thing. The internet will never be a thing. You know, like this is like the conversation that we've had from the beginning, right? You've always had people who know very confidently that things will never be adapted. Bottled water will never be a thing. You know, it's literally saying, look, where's my consumer base? Does my consumer have a need for something like this? If we were talking about blockchain, we're talking about Web3, we're talking about decentralized currency. Where can I make sure that my consumer has the most value? Then you'll see an ROI or an ROE. Then people will start adopting this technology. But until you look at the very, very base points, it can't be a thing, right? Because there has to be an understanding of how it's going to be valuable to you and your consumer.
I think one of the biggest things too is we hear the word education a lot, but a lot of people are like, oh cool, so I need to learn, but how do I learn about all this stuff? Because it feels very overwhelming. You don't even know where to start. And like even coming to a conference like this, meeting creators, meeting people who run the booths, talking to the companies, they will provide you with information. And like when I first got into space, I was told, meet the people in this space. And that's what I did. I found out Twitter was the hotspot for everything crypto and NFT, so that's where I went. I went into Twitter Spaces. I started following companies, and not just starting following the companies, I started following the people behind the companies. So when you say education, it really is putting yourself out there to meet these people, to do the research yourself, to learn about the companies. Because if you just get into this space and you just follow what everyone else is doing without knowing what you're doing, you're going to get burned really bad, and that just turns people off. So when you say educate, is really do the research, go to Google, go to the companies, go to the people, and just start talking to them.
Well said. I think one of the things we don't think about is the audience does not know a lot of these terms that we talk about. So, Adrian, let's just start with you. Like, try to give your baseline of Web 3.0 for those that don't really understand what that is. I feel like we kind of jumped really fast into some very heavy terms and content.
I'm probably the wrong person to give a baseline. I'm such a, like,
You can do it.
I'll dive really, really deep, you know. But Web 3.0 from my perspective is having a different approach, you know. So you look at Web 1.0, which is very informative, you know. Web 2.0 became very interactive. Web 3.0 is kind of removing some of the gatekeepers, some of the rules, right? Saying, hey, look, I'm taking away this person from controlling everything and making it more decentralized, right? That's one very small piece of what this really is. What would you do if you could look at the genesis of the internet and make it everything you want to be? And now we're in a position where we can, because we can have networks and people working together to achieve that goal.
Yeah, totally agree, right? The internet's for everybody. And so I think a first step is like it's in the hands of creators, right? It's in the hands of everyone here. Downloading a MetaMask wallet, understanding what Ethereum is, it's too confusing. I think the key concept is abstracting away as much crypto knowledge as possible for a developer and creator is a really important task. Wrote a small check into a company called Skyweaver and Horizon Blockchain Games, and they're thinking about Web 2 logins. How do you log in with your Facebook, Gmail, Twitter, and then your wallet is provisioned for you? How do you interact on the website with a fiat on-ramp? So you buy the NFT with my credit card or with USD. Like, no Ethereum, no crypto, very simple. I think that's how we kind of masses.
Maybe you want to add to that?
Yeah, I can speak from a creator standpoint, and for me, it really is creative freedom now. It's like I love working for all the major publishers I work for. I love the jobs I get from them, but every artist wants to create for themselves, and Web3 gives us a chance to do that in a new and innovative way with tools that weren't available to us before. So I like being able to create without the middleman, and I love being able to give this to communities, give this to my fans, and we're able to have this brand new interaction. So I tell comics, but now I could take that, flip it on its head, keep the core values, but try new things. And I think that's one of the coolest things and the most fascinating things about getting involved in Web3.
Yeah, I like that. I like to say that really for me, Web 1 is kind of Web 3. Web 1, there was no tracking pixels. You didn't know who you were. You were scared shitless to put your credit card in a website in 2001, right? So it's more about Web 3 is going to be a controlled Web 1.0 in my opinion. Switching gears a little bit, I can talk about with this question for you. So as people transition from Web 2.0 to 3.0, NFTs seem to be a big part of Web 3.0. What should a company think about if they should have an NFT ecosystem, or should they not? Maybe some examples of both. I know you're from the creative side, so I'm sure you're going to lean toward the NFTs.
Yeah, I definitely, as a creator, it's like NFTs are very easy to lean towards because they give something that you could use as an access token, in a way to access towards the community, and it's like a ticket almost to, like, I like it because now I'm building communities I was not able to build before. I'm being a part of that, and that's what NFTs, I feel, grant that. And if you're a company where, I can't really speak for other companies because I'm such a creative mindset that for me, I'm like, it just makes the most sense. And the really cool thing is that everyone's like, oh, it's only art NFTs. I'm like, no, there's music, there's stories, you can tell poems. It's just a contract, a way of keeping track of something, and that's really what an NFT is. It keeps track. It's like like I said earlier, it's a ticket into an ecosystem that you could be a part of, a community you could be a part of. And I love the fact that it's so easily trackable, and you could just open up your wallet, you go on the website, you link it to your Discord. It's really easy to link everything together. So once you have it, the proof of it, to be able to go to an event, to buy something else, to collect something, is really cool how it's really easily all connected.
Very well said.
Adrian, you know, my approach is always narrative first, right? What's the story? Like, you know, people sit on a panel and talk about Web3 and crypto and NFTs. Like, what's your user's in case? That's the only thing that matters. NFTs are a tool. You know, blockchain is the tool. Hey, sure, you can say it's secure, it's something that's duplicated so people have the exact same information so it's not going to be counterfeited and all these things. These are tools. Find out what your audience wants. Find out what your audience needs, your consumer, your customer, and build off of that and say, oh, well, here's how I can take their need and encompass it into a token or a Web3 or an NFT. This is all that's really important. Everything else, like, think of the terminology as nothing. Thinking of the actual end use case is everything. If you start there, you'll be successful in this space, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. Bouncing off what Adrian said here, the utility has to be far greater than the onboarding difficulty. So if you look at like Uber, right? Like, why do we use Uber? Because we want to get to the airport, we want to get home, but we don't have any affinity to Uber or Lyft, right? Half the time I'm checking which has a better price, which has a faster time. So something we saw at GatherTown, right? Like learning, so it's like a Pokemon meets Zoom. And for some people, like, Pokemon's kind of confusing. Like, you have an avatar, you can move around and talk to people. Little tough, and it doesn't feel like a Zoom. It feels like a game. But the utility of joining an event on Gather was like very high because I get to meet people, maybe go to a crypto meetup or something. So people are willing to is why people are willing to create a space, spend hours learning how to make drawings and pictures and paintings, just so that you can have the end use case, right? So huge. I think now when I'm building things and whatnot, I'm thinking about how is this end utility far greater than onboarding difficulty.
Great point.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. Let's switch over to tokenomics a little bit. So we've talked about why we should get 3.0. Should we have an NFT or not? Let's talk about tokens. Everybody knows you can create your own token and put it for sale on FTX or Binance or wherever. We're going to think about, start at the end, about should you have a token? Now you've decided maybe I should have an NFT or not. Should I have a token? Or is it confusing to my client base to have a token that tend to be rise in value very quickly and decreasing in value very quickly?
Yeah, also great question there. I think right from the get-go, starting with the token, there's a lot of pressure to think about tokenomics and not focus on gameplay. So Skyweaver Horizon, they've only focused on gameplay of it's like a Magic the Trading Card game. But in crypto, GatherTown is only focused on kind of user experience. So before we jump into tokenomics, let's just focus on the experience, right? You've seen other crypto projects like Gaussian Chain, Immutable X, they've just went crazy with launching tokens. Unsure if that's the strategy. I think the ones to kind of stay through the crypto winter will have their own community that doesn't really care about the token. It just sort of enhances their gameplay.
And to jump on that, I think ultimately you have to benefit the user. And I dwell on this, and I only dwell on it because it's important. Your community, you can build your own token, whether an NFT or your own coin or whatever you're building, but do you need it? Are you wasting resources, to build your own when you could jump on, you could, maybe everybody in your community is a multi-billionaire. Maybe everybody can buy into it, right? You don't need to create a new name. Doesn't matter, right? What's the utility? What are they ultimately getting? What is this going to allow them access to? At the end of the day, that's literally all that matters. Because you can create your coolest thing and have 8 people use it, and the value is going to drop instantly because there's no community there. Or you can jump on something that's already created and have a ton of people use it, and then it's oh well, even if your efforts kind of plunge a little bit, right? The community's building it up, so it's always going to have value. And that is your job as an owner or a platform or whatever to make sure that you understand your user base as opposed to what your thoughts are on what could be cool.
Yeah, basically just jump on that. does your project actually need it? Because if it doesn't need it, then no. If it will benefit your project, of course, include it. Like for me, like launching an NFT project, it took me a while to wrap my head around the tokens, and I'm like, no, my project doesn't need it. It's not going to benefit it in any way. I feel it's already strong with the community building with the NFTs. So the first question it should always be, do I need it? Will there be a benefit to having it? And if no, then find a different approach. And if yes, really focus on that so it becomes not just something on the side that's just there, but becomes a priority that's really a part of the project itself.
Yeah, I like that. I think for me, people like Nike, for example, they don't really need a token, right? They want their customers to love their product. Of course, they're going to be into NFTs, right? As they do that. Right now, just so you know, about 90% of the people in crypto only care about flipping a token as quick as possible to make a buck. It's not a long-term investment like it used to be a long time ago. So I feel like, for me, staying away from the tokens right now, building the community, maybe at some point in time it becomes an important part of your ecosystem. But right now I'm just in the boat to kind of stay away. 98% of the people on the planet don't even know really anything about crypto and have not participated in crypto. So we're at the infancy. Internet's 50 years old. Blockchain's 13 years old. Do you think about 37 years ago where the internet was at? We didn't even have .coms 37 years ago. So it's definitely at the jump point right now. And every time you get a new technology, you gotta have some way to build it, right? So let's just get into what Algorand, Solana, there's a lot of different layer one we call it. That's where you build your tech on. So maybe some advice on why you would pick one over the other for layer one technology to build your ecosystem on.
Yeah, great question. I think the blockchains will be continually iterated on, right? So you started with proof of work, and then you saw proof of stake, and then you saw delegated proof of stake, and then you saw proof of history. So you've seen like Ethereum, Polygon, Solana, future Aptos. So it's just about how fast is someone like adding support for the new blockchains. But in terms of like thinking like where is it going to be big? And so something I figured, while working on these like metaverse spaces is like really asynchronous consumption, right? Can't be like gathering everybody here at the same time. Like right now it's 4:30 is like very difficult. Right? There was a lot of prep that happened before this, but now if we can just like consume on any chain, right, multi-chain. Whatever, some creator experience at our own times, in our own time zones, I think that's going to be pretty big. So not really focused on L1 per se. I think it's going to be a multi-chain future, and I think it's going to continuously change, right? Like Aptos, Mist and Sui. I see some people taking notes. Maybe these are the tokens that are going to moon next year. That next year, the year after that, like Solana is not going to be a big thing anymore, right? So yeah, we're going to see continuous iteration of it.
I think currencies are very similar to currencies. Like cryptocurrency is going to be very similar to regular currency in a way, right? So you look at, before it was like, oh, well, the dollar has to have gold behind it, and then it's like, oh, well, now the dollar is, you look at now the dollar is equivalent, like the US dollar is equivalent to the European dollar, or one of them.
The euro, yeah.
The euro, thank you. So like, I think in your approach, if you're really trying to integrate these things, you should look more at what your team knows, what your team understands, what your team deals with, right? Because it's only as good as you give value to it, That's why recessions happen. That there's no value in this because of this. There's no value in this because of this. So I would look less at the current, you get Bitcoin, you get Solana, you get Ethereum, it's less valuable in my opinion, as opposed to what is it ultimately going to give to your consumer.
And with every everything. I think it also depends on what you're wanting to do in this space. Like a lot of creatives right now are leaning towards just launching on Ethereum. Everyone's very familiar with it. But there's gas, which is the transaction fee. So if you're launching a gaming company, there's most likely no way you can launch on Ethereum because you're just going to go broke. So it really depends on what's the goals of your project, what do you need, and then you could look at what layer, what blockchain really to go for, what suits your business needs, because you want sustainability. And the biggest thing is it's all going to evolve, so also keep that in mind and plan ahead in the future, knowing that technology is always going to continue changing and something new might come around. So really focus on what your project needs, and that way you can decide where to go with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like Alta Vista was the thing for searching the internet. Most people aren't even old enough to know what Alta Vista is, but Google became the superior search engine, right? So you're right, maybe it's possible Solana's not even an option 5 years from now. So definitely do your homework, like Agnes said. So let's think about the risk and reward for moving into Web 3.0. Agnes, I'll go back to you. Let's think about, do you see risk or are there rewards? Is there a balance between the two?
I think there's balance between the two. I'm just going to talk about a very current risk, which I know there's a lot of people afraid to go into Web3 because you say NFTs and it's super taboo. You're like, oh my God, I just said the word. And I'm a creative and I use my name, Agnes Garboska, and it's a name that has been established in my own career. So one of my personal biggest risks, which a lot of people might relate to, is if you're a creator wanting to get in, but you're so afraid of the reaction, is the hate you get from it. And I didn't realize how hard the hate would be. So it almost took me a year and a half to even publicly say the word NFT after I said it once. And all I said was, hey guys, just educate yourselves. And I lost so many followers. My DMs got spammed with hate, but then one day I started really embracing it. I started meeting the creators in the space. I'm like, no, I don't want to be quiet anymore. I want to be a part of the space. So I had a choice to make now. Do I use my name to embrace everything, to try to onboard other people, or do I go undoxed, which means I go in under a different name and no one knows who I am? And I decided, you know what? My whole goal in life is to educate people. If I would go as a different name, I can't have that power. So one of the biggest risks as a creative, especially one where you're already starting to establish your name in your own industry, is putting yourself out there as an NFT creator, knowing that you're going to constantly get pushback and you're going to get attacked and you're going to lose followers. But if that happens to you guys, and I know that's a huge creative risk, just start talking to people already in that space. They will boost your morale because they're all so amazing and so cool and so encouraging. So everyone who I lost, I regained a new family in this space.
They're all cool kids.
Yeah, so that's like a very personal creative risk, and I just want to put it out there because I know a lot of people, it's really difficult, and there's many nights I cried because of it. But the biggest reward is being in this space and being able to create whatever the heck I want, and I love that so much.
Well said.
Man, I love this panel. Yeah.
Adrian, take a different spin on it from the business side.
Because I think I'm in the middle. I'm like creative with business. I'm right in the middle. And look, you're gonna get embarrassed sometimes. It's gonna happen. You know, like yes, a couple of days ago I was supposed to win this big jackpot, but they messed up on the numbers or whatever. But like, you know, like you're gonna get embarrassed sometimes. You're not always gonna be right. Admitting that the highest level you can get to in this space as a student is big. You know, tell your audience, look, I don't know everything. You know, I'm an expert and I know very, very little. That's okay. You know, and the people you lose weren't supposed to be there. I guarantee the people you lose in this space, they're not your top paying customers. They're not the people who are buying your things for top dollar. They're the people who are asking for discounts. You know, they want the Groupons. You don't need those people. Just understand that I personally knew when the iPhone was gonna drop. I had the money to invest in Apple iPhone and I didn't because it was too weird of a concept. Nah, no one's gonna do that. You know how much money I'd have right now? I'd have a Bentley helicopter right now. I would land it right here in front of all y'all. But it's like if you don't jump in now, if you don't take the risk, I think the negative will be overwhelming.
I think there's risk with anything, right? There's even risk for even driving here today. So I think the reward is like exponential. I mean, like I can talk about what we're doing with DYDX, which is an exchange, a derivatives exchange. Maybe it's similar to Uniswap. just log in with your wallet and you kind of exchange crypto. But what we're working with them is like a token gated gather town space. So you would need X number of tokens to get into this space. And then on this call, you can like chat with other people about your trading strategies. So you can see like this is that for that specific protocol, but you can now extrapolate this for hackathons, developers, meetups. So yeah, very excited about it. And then think about, we talked about Web 2 a lot, a little bit, right? Web 2 is very good at taking your identity, and it's like very predatory with machine learning, right? How many of us have been on YouTube and those suggestions are like spot on, right? Or like that Instagram feed, that social media feed, is like they're reading my brain, right? But I think with crypto, something I've been looking into is like zero knowledge proofs and privacy. So now if I like log into an application, and I was chatting with the Polygon people about this, I only like give one part of my identity. So now all the information I put on that application, there could be machine learning happening on that, and maybe like no one's profiting off of it. Maybe I'm profiting off of it, right? So I think this is like so interesting.
Yes, I agree. I really like the way you said that. Three very good answers for that question. Let's jump to, I guess, ESG, which is environmental, social, government, looking at Web3, environmental impact. What's the legislation look like? We touched a little bit on social when you talk about bullying, which is always going to be a problem. I think moving forward, we just got to put that on the shelf. But what do you think? Environmental, social, what's the impact for Web 3.0?
Yeah, I mean, I think this has always been a discussion point, right? Like, but proof of work, like there's always going to be a new interest. Like, I think it's a rocket ship to like better renewables, right? So now someone random in the world like figure out like geothermal mining, like getting energy from the ground or getting energy from like water. So I think it's it's a race to like better renewables. Socially, I think machine learning and people will figure out how to like kick people out if they're like being bad actors on social media platforms. So yeah, I mean today we're not in the best place, but there's a big incentive to move in the right direction.
I think when you think about things like this, especially with social, like there are some people in America who don't have internet. You know, like let's look at what it really is. You know, if you talk about social, you have to talk about accessibility. If you talk about accessibility, it's like, look, where is the real genesis of this? Because this ultimately is to adoption, right? You know, how are you going to make this thing a thing? How are you going to make Web3 or any of these letters that we throw out every day going to be a thing? And you know, look at the genesis of it before you look at the negative it could entail. It could cause bullying, it could cause, you know, discrimination, or it could cause great things. But you have to give everyone the same set of tools early on in order to figure out what it's going to be, and then you can kind of accommodate and adjust, you know, and calibrate that way. But like, let's look at the base level. Like, let's get everyone access to these tools, and then find out what they're going to use them for.
Definitely. I think the thing right now, it's a brand new technology. So especially from the environmental aspect, as more and more people adapt, it's going to have to adapt with everything that's happening. And it's pushing a lot of people to look at ways to do it better, to do it environmentally better, and adapt new technologies. As we're talking about, how do you get energy? What's a cleaner way? And I think that's really important. And it's forcing people. And I think the really interesting thing is you can tell how invested people are in this technology because they're looking for new ways to sustain it and make it more environmentally friendly. That right there tells you that a lot of people are believing in it and believing in the long term. And from the social, like, I know most likely like me, you are hurting right now, seeing a lot of red. But I think this is also a really good time for people to not look at the red, but look at, this is time to start creating and planning for when the market recovers. And I think this is also a really good learning for people. And I think it'll also filter people out who came in for the wrong intentions. And now it's like, who's gonna be still here months after this is going on and still wanting to be in this space? And I think it's a really good testing space for people who really came into it for the right reasons. And I really do hope it filters out people, because there's too much scamming and stuff going on and taking advantage of new people who are just trying to learn this technology and not not knowing where to go or what direction, you hear scam, scam, scam. So I think this is a really good time for people to take a moment, take a breath, and even though our wallets are crying, to really see what we can do now, because it's time to stop, breathe, take a step back, rebuild, and really learn from scratch maybe. And sometimes if you've gone in for the wrong reasons, that you're like, I want to make a lot of money, this is your time now to really learn the technology and learn what you can do with it, especially in the long-term scheme of things. Feels like the wild, wild west. I feel like this is a good time to get a little bit tamed.
Yes, I like that. So our closing question is going to be, it's 10 years from now, it's 2032, Web 3.0 is very prominent. I'm going to ask you 3 different positions on the company, the consumer, and the guy in the middle that's making money in this space, right? So if you had a magic wand, I'm going to let you be the consumer, Agnes. What's your dream 2032 look like, Web 3.0?
It's really, I think, accessibility. It'd be really cool just to pull out my wallet and just be like, yep, I got this. Yep, I went there. Yep, I got my ticket here, and it's just all in one place. And I think having like the access to the contracts, like instead of buying a house, I think there was like a house sale made on like an NFT contract. You're just like, here you go. Everything's written in the contract. Everything's digitally. Everything's accessible. And I think it'll be really, really cool just to be able to have our wallets go around and just be able to buy everything very easily and show our community. And it's just, I feel it being very easy and being everywhere. And that's why I love this. And I just, every time I talk about it to someone new, they're like, oh, isn't it just started? I'm like, wait a minute, wait, you know what? Like imagine going to Disney and just being able to just present your wallet just everywhere, not have to worry, and everything just appears, and they're like, what are you talking about, girl? You're way too excited. I'm like, dude, you have no idea what we can do with this. So I'm just really excited to see where it goes.
That's where we're going. Take middleman, a business guy trying to make some money in this space.
All right, so honestly, 2032 hybrid, you're still going to be spending cash. You're still going to have people who are spending physical dollars. You're going to have people who are spending crypto. It's going to be an understanding of a hybrid approach. How do you want to do this? How do you want to consume content? Is it going to be a metaverse play? Is it going to be an in real life play? It's understanding that there's no cookie cutter approach to everything. And that's okay. You know, some people will spend $5,000 for a ticket, some people can or won't spend $5,000 for a ticket. But at the end of the day, everybody wants to consume the art. That's 2032, that's where we're at. We're like, hey, look, how do you want to consume it? What's in it for you? How do you want to do this? But now you have the option.
I think life is a game, and we're going to be playing it. You'll see like a marketplace, right? So it would be like everyone in here will be able to become a creator game, and we're able to make experiences, and then
Very, very well said. Don't Snap Boogie could come up, but I don't think he's here. Are you here, Snap?
I just saw him.
Hey, Snap Boogie, are you here?
No.
Okay, anyway.
Look right there. Snap Boogie.
All right. Are you going to do it? You're going to, Joe. So just so you know, the Snap's going to come up here. He was the beginning of Web 3.0, I'll say that. The first NFT emote, I would say, basically, was it Wall Street Journal? Was it first NFT emote? Saturday Night Live opening. Show us your emote and see what you got. This is the closing gift from the panel to you to stay to the very end. And he's going to do it without music.
Damn! Oh!
So if you watch Fortnite, you've seen this many, many, many times. There's no doubt about it. The one and only Snap Boogie. Follow him on Instagram. He's a sensation out there. Do we have time for one question? I'm not sure with our time.
We'll be all right.
Yeah, we'll actually give you a question.
I'm gonna NFT that performance for the record. If you want to talk to me, it's gonna be on OpenSea. I'm gonna NFT that.
These lights are very, very bright.
Yeah.
Thank God I got a big smile.
Cool.
So I'm Serge from NFT Triangulus. So my question is to you guys, 3.0, do you think it's going to be adapted easily by that 90% of people that don't know anything about it?
It's a great question, and I think for me, being in technology, I feel like we have to make it easier. Right now, people are afraid. There will be a tipping point where you literally have to have a wallet to do the thing you want to do. There will be a store, or it'll be a concert, or whatever it may be, that you will go through the effort to make that transition into Web 3.0. Maybe it's governance, maybe the legislation will change and make things easier. You want to add to that? That's a good question.
Who here likes waffles?
I love waffles.
If you didn't know how good a waffle was, you would never try a waffle. Until we show people how good and how strong this can be, no one's gonna adapt. It's not gonna happen. But once people get a bite with the syrup and the what?
Some warm butter.
What?
Now we're talking.
Then it's gonna become a thing. So, you know, you're gonna have your influencers, you're gonna have your 1%, I know everybody hates the term, but your 1% of people who are going to be trying really, really hard to get people to taste waffles, and then at one point, everyone's gonna have a bite, and it's gonna become quick.
We got one more question.
I couldn't have said it better than that. Now you'll be making money on that waffle.
Hey, go sponsor me.
So I got a question, two-part in a sense. One, from what I'm hearing, this could replace trademarking, replace patent, right? So the legal, this function is gonna be crazy in terms of destructing the legal channels of trademarks and patents and copyright. Basically, this is going to even be a cheaper way to do it, from what I'm seeing, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's one. Two, what's going to stop the other guy from trademarking your stuff before you do it?
The panel just talked about this before we came up here. If you really want to be decentralized, from our company's vision, is we want everything to be on the blockchain. We don't want to patent things, and we don't want to trademark things. We want to put it in like Agnes said earlier, we're going to put it in a smart contract. It says when we created it, this is what it is. Now, right now, does anybody go by that? No, they go by and get a trademark somewhere else. So you got to fight the fight. You just got to be the best at you got to be the Kleenex of a product, where everybody calls you Kleenex, even though that's the name of a brand. It's not an actual Kleenex, right? So it's going to take jobs away. The lawyers are going to make less money. It's going to be better for us in the future. And it's what gets me excited about Web3.
Definitely, just because you can track everything now. It's like you go to a contract, you can track where it's been, where it's going, and I think that's going to just make everything really easy. And I really like that. It's like I don't have to ask where, I just go follow the blockchain. I'm like, oh, it was here. Okay, I have all the answers, and I think that's the best part about it.
Same. Blockchain is basically saying, hey, look, we all have access to the same file. So I know if I put out my waffle NFT, which I'm going to, and Ed says, now that was his idea. Well, look at the genesis of this. This started here. She knows it started here. He knows it started here. You guys all know it started here. Then when Ed tries to take it, it's like, no, that was Adrian. That's it.
You make a better waffle than I do, Adrian. A closing argument there?
Yeah, I think some software form of the crypto police will arise, right? And so when people are logging into these dApps, you'll see like, is this counterfeit? Is this, is there some rights behind it? Who the creator is, who the originator is? Did they take it through Tornado Cash, or did they try to conceal their transactions? So yeah, crypto, definitely a big opportunity in crypto police.
Let's give it up for the NFT team, the NFT to put this on, the cameraman, the people that appreciate all the hard work, Natalie, all you all that really made this special. We love to talk, so this is great for us to come. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you guys. Peace.